what I'm working with. So we had some plumbing issues not too long ago, and like if I do this, oh wait, nope, it still flipped around. Damn. So I'm cleaning up some soil and stuff from the front yard where the guys that did the plumbing work left it. And I found tons of chunks of this is wild clay. And I've been doing a lot of research recently, so I didn't know that I was going to have the opportunity this time of year, before next spring, to actually do this. But this is actually clay. And a pretty substantial chunk of it. I can show you the suspension that I've got going currently. I'm actually going to drop this in there. Once I show you the separation that's already happening, because I think you'll be able to see. Hi! Pop that on the table. So there's already separation happening. See that? Isn't that pretty? Look at that pretty swirl. So all of this that's suspended, most of it is clay. It's very, very dirty. So I'm going to take this now and dump it in the other bucket next to me. I'm pretty excited. I'm going to try ground firing pottery. I'm actually going to drop this in there. There's still some chunks in the bottom. But I grew up in my grandma's ceramic shop, so I'm familiar with ceramics. I've never, worked with a pottery wheel or anything like that. I'm sorry if this is on its side. That's the best I can do, honestly. And I'm going to try to pay as much attention to chat, but it's on the other side of the thing. I know. Anyways, I have this strainer here that I think hopefully will catch a lot of the big stuff, like the sticks and the grass and stuff that are floating on top. And I've already managed to get more dirt in here. That's okay. I'll filter it out. So now I just have to drain this off of. So this was stirred up and allowed to sit. You can see there's still a lot of big chunks of clay in the bottom of the bucket. So I will actually put more water in that and just continue processing. You see there's a lot of gunk in there too. That can just be tapped out here on the side. So mostly what we have right here, this is clay, or a very runny slip. I can still feel little bits of sand and soil in it, but that's okay. Well, that'll settle out eventually. You can't even really see what I was motioning to. Okay, just gonna pick it back up. So, shoot! How annoying is that? So most of what you see there in the water and coating my hand is clay. So this will actually have to settle until there's clear water on top. We'll drain the clear water off until we have just a mass of the clay in the bottom of the bucket. Or at least that's the goal. Let me put this back down here. So now I have to add more water back into the orange bucket and go through the whole stirring and processing again to get the clay out of that. So this bucket will get set aside. And then this one, which has quite a lot of clay still in the bottom of it. Like most of this is, see how that's like, it spreads, it has a plasticity to it. Like it wants to mold into something. That is the clay content in the soil that I found. So that's a lot of clay. So I'm going to add more water to this. If I can get the hose over here, actually I may have to go over to the hose. I have to turn the water on, so I'll be right back. Here we go. Sorry I'm sideways. I'm just running more water in this. It looks like there's still quite a bit of plant matter in that bucket. But I think since most of the time the plant matter really does float a lot, it's going to be easy to drain that off with the next drain of water. So I'm going to turn that off and bring it back over. And I'm going to sit down and process more of this. I'm using a that is the camera. Okay. It's really annoying, y'all. I'm sorry. Does that help? That's a little better. That's a little better. So I'm using an old broom handle from a shop broom because I don't have one of the drill things that you attach to a drill to do this, so I'm doing it by hand. And this is just breaking down the chunks of clay and helping it to suspend in the water. So this will keep getting drained off until it's just the soil and gravel left in the top of the bucket, or in the bottom of the bucket, not the top. Because stirring it like this agitates it and mixes the clay because it's so much lighter than the soil. And it stays suspended in the water for a longer amount of time. I would take you back and show you where I'm going to do the firing. It's in a fire pit very similar to this one in the back. It's just a little bit bigger. It's on the back of the property. And I'm going to fire the pottery right in the fire pit. Sorry, I'm going to take a second to look at chat. Nope, that doesn't help any. Maybe that does? Oh yeah, I was just going the wrong way. So I can actually reach in here and grab some of these clods of clay. And that's how you can tell it's clay, is the plasticity. Because it's like it wants to be molded and worked. It very much reminds me of my grandmother allowing me to play with the trimmings off of the off of the ceramics that she did when I was growing up. Because I would take the little bits of trimmings and I would make ashtrays and things like that. So I'm going to just kind of break some of these clods up by hand. And hopefully that'll help them mix a little more thoroughly with the soil and not take as long, or with the water, and not take as long for me to process this. That other bucket is going to have to sit for probably a day or so, 24 hours maybe, until it settles enough to drain the water off. Like this is that's a lot of clay. And this is all out of my yard, which I didn't expect to find in Michigan, because clay, according to the research that I've done, is basically sediment of volcanic ash. Very, very old volcanic ash. So depending on where the plumbers that did the work on the house got their topsoil, it's just kind of interesting. Very dirty work. Obviously, like this piece is really, there could be a rock in it. Nope, no rock in it, just kind of firm. Try not to use my fingernails to break it apart because they're already in bad shape. So, I'm recovering from the strep throat pretty well. Thank goodness. I was so over being sick, I gotta tell you. So I'm just breaking these clods into smaller pieces in hopes that it'll help me mix it in with the water a little better. It's so nice outside today, y'all. It's 68 degrees in November in Michigan, which is very unseasonable weather for us. I am going to be covered in clay by the time I'm done. I think I've got most of the really large pieces broke up for the most part. I have come across a few rocks when I was breaking up the really big clods that I put in here. So, any building or firing that is going to happen probably is not going to happen until the spring. I'm going to clean my hands off real quick. Try not to do it over my firewood, because that's kind of dumb. Oh, I just sprayed myself in the face. That's lovely. So how is everybody doing? Plans for the weekend, anything like that? I'm going to go back to mixing. So the way this is supposed to work, to get rid of the sand or soil or anything like that that might be in it, if you mix it like this, you let it sit for about 10 minutes, giving the heavier stuff a chance to fall to the bottom, to settle. And you pour off the material on top. And you keep doing that until it's clay and water left. And then from that point, you mix it up really well. And you let it sit until the clay particles fully settle. So when you look at a river and it isn't clear, what gives it the color is the clay particles in the water. From what I understand from the research I've been doing. I've been doing this for, looking at this stuff for a couple of weeks now. I watched quite a lot of videos. There's a guy out west that has courses that I'm too cheap to pay for courses. So I've been watching his free videos on YouTube. Oh, and I have spinach in my garden. I didn't expect that. The tomato plants, expectantly so, have already withered and died because we've already had at least one freeze. We've had snow. I feel like there's only small pieces, really small pieces left in here. And you can hear quite a bit of soil. And the color in this is just this beautiful, rich brown color. I'm not going to get any red clay here because that's, I just don't see that because that's, I think, mostly found in the south. I think that red clay has a lot of iron oxide in it, if I'm not mistaken. It's just, the clay color depends on the minerals that are in it. And the minerals are determined by the location and what minerals are rich in that area. I'm still feeling some pretty big lumps in there. I'm glad to chat real quick. This stream isn't likely to be a long one because this process is a whole lot of hurry up and wait. But I kind of wanted to share like my first moments of getting started with this new creative process thing, I guess. Yeah, I won't be using a pottery wheel because I don't want to buy one. Although I would love to learn how to throw clay or sling clay. Is it throw? It's throw, isn't it? I think. I would love to learn how to do that. But I'm going to be hand building this pottery. I've been watching quite a few videos. The guy that I was talking about out west, he actually spent quite a bit of time in Africa and learned the methods used by folks there that make pottery like this. They process the clay from the soil, they dig it up themselves, they process it, they make their pottery, they ground fire it. I'm not going to be ground firing in the same way they do, because I've seen a couple of different things. I would love to make an updraft kiln eventually. Yeah, this clay just wants to stick together in these larger clods. It feels like some of them are softening some, though, which is good. Oh yeah, I'm getting some rocks and things now where it's, yay, progress, except these larger bits here, the more firm bits. They're the ones that, oh, I just splashed it all over my face. Like the softer ones are breaking up fairly easily. I'm gonna rinse this off with an arm. You can't see that. There you go. Covered in clay. So I'm noticing in the other bucket, while I've been mixing that up, there's quite a bit of separation. Again, so we've got, I'll show you after I dry my hands. We got some very, hi. Well, this is the first time I've done it, or first time I'm doing it. I've done some research. So I'm kind of going through it. I will have a YouTube video or YouTube videos, a series up in the spring. But I can show you again that separation that I was talking about earlier. So this is the bucket that has just clay and water, or for the most part clay and water. I'm sure there's still some soil in there. But if I can touch here and not move the clay, there's very clearly some separation. See, I can touch the water and not move the clay, but if I do this, that clay just swirls. So it's already starting to separate in the bucket, which is really cool. I feel like, and I can't remember the name of it, of what it's called when you separate it back and forth to get, you know, the clay out of it. I'll eventually remember all the terms. But yeah, there'll be a YouTube series in the spring probably. This was just sort of a spur of the moment idea, since it was a pretty day, which is uncommon during November in Michigan. Like a day enough that I can be outside with short sleeves. So I'm going to mix this up as much as possible and try to break up as many of the clods in the bottom. And then this one's just going to sit because I only have the 2 buckets currently. I'll get in touch with the local Subway and get a couple of their pickle buckets. This is what the white one is. It's a pickle bucket from back when I worked at Subway. This would probably be a lot faster if I had one of those drill things, but I do not. So, and I'm trying to do this as much as possible with the materials that I have. And you can see the soil bits where the water pulls away from them. So there's still quite a bit of soil in here, which will settle out. And then basically the dirty water that's suspended is just clay and water once the dirt settles out of it. And I will preface by saying I'm by no means an expert on this. I'm definitely not an expert after only watching about a week and a half of worth of videos and looking up research online as to mineral deposits in Michigan. This is just something fun that I wanted to give a try. If it goes somewhere and I end up, you know, adding that to my business, great, you know. I'm sure I'll get lots of people in the comment section on YouTube that will correct me, and I will be thankful for it because I'm new to it. Okay, so I won't wait for the water to evaporate. What I'll wait for is for the particles to settle, if that makes sense. So, I don't know if you noticed on that bucket over there, the white bucket when I was showing just a minute ago, but the water was on top of the other materials. You could see that it was clearly clean water on top of the material. So what happens is the heavier particles are going to settle to the bottom first. And that's going to leave the clay suspended in the water on top. That'll get poured off. And typically I'll do that, from what I've seen from the videos, that'll happen 2 or 3 times, if not more. I can't remember what the process is called exactly, but that'll happen 2 or 3 times for myself. This is how I'm going to do it. And then once you get all of the larger particles of soil and sand out of it, after doing that a few times, because you're going to leave the soil and sand in the bottom of the bucket that you're pouring it off of. And you can keep processing that until you get pretty much all of the clay out of it. So what I do after I mix this up, if I had another bucket, is I would let this sit about 10 minutes or so to give the sand and soil time to settle to the bottom of the bucket, leaving the clay suspended in the water. And then I'd pour the water with the suspended clay off the top of that. I would add more water and process what was in the bottom again to make sure I was getting all the clay. And then once I had the sand and soil processed out of it, I would have just a bucket of clay and water. I would leave that sitting for 24 hours or more and give the clay time to settle all the way down to the bottom, and then I would just drain off the water. And you'll very clearly be able to see in the bucket that there'll just be water and maybe some plant matter floating on top with the clay in the bottom. It'll be clearly separated. You can pour the water off, and then the clay will go strained through some cloth, and I'm going to make a linen bag for that. So the clay will get strained and left to dry, which can take probably a week or so. It won't dry out completely. It'll just dry enough to be workable, and then it'll go into a plastic bag to keep what moisture is left in there. And then it'll be workable clay that I'll be able to build pottery from. I think so too, which is why I'm really excited about doing this. A lot of people that do pottery, they don't process raw clay. They don't do this part of it, and I think this part is really cool, that you can take dirt out of your yard, which is what I did here. Well, dirt that was dumped in my yard by a plumber, but still, dirt out of my yard, and turn it into something that is a usable product. Now, this won't be glazed. It's going to be basically raw pottery. It will be a porous pottery, so it's not really going to be something that you're going to put liquids in or anything like that. Because those require higher firing temperatures that I don't have the capacity to do yet. Like if I were to eventually build an updraft kiln, then I would be able to do that. I'm just using the broom handle to kind of break up some of those larger pieces that I can feel in the bottom. Once those are broken up for the most part, I'm just going to leave this to sit. And that'll be the end of the stream because there won't be anything else for me to do. I need to contact the local store and get some more buckets. Normally they just throw them away, so. I left my coffee sitting on a tree stump, y'all. Oh, where'd chat go? Give me chat back. Hello? Oh, there we go. Yes, it does. It does. I was just saying earlier I grew up in my grandma's ceramic shop, and I remember her giving me little bits of clay that she was trimming away from pots and things, plates and ceramic pieces that she made. And exactly, and I would take those little bits of clay that she gave me, and I would make like ashtrays and things like that. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the white bucket that I have over here is a pickle bucket from there. I can only hope that the yellow jackets have stayed away from my coffee. But yeah, it is definitely a win-win. I'm going to turn this around. I'm sideways, I know, I'm sorry. And try to kind of tilt this so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, maybe not. I can tell if what you're seeing is straight or what. My hair's a mess today. It does. So I have a fire pit very much like this one back behind that copse of trees in the yard. Get that back there. There's another fire pit on the other side that's seldom used. So that's where I'm going to be doing the pit firing. So it's like this one. It's just a little bit bigger. Yeah, so are y'all seeing me sideways? Because I'm sideways when I'm looking at this. I can't fix it. I don't know how. We tried. But I can see chat with it turned around this way, so. Even though now the top of my head's cut off and I can't really see what I'm doing. So it feels like there aren't that many large pieces, and I don't know, see the color on this? That's clay. Clay suspended in water. And that's the purest right there. You can see the grittiness up here a little bit, but this right here, this is just pure clay. Oh, good. So it's showing up straight on your end. I'm just seeing it side figures. So I'm about to get my hands dirty again. I need like a shorter, hang on. I have a log that I can sit you on, so you can kind of see a little bit better what I'm doing here. Hopefully. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to kind of break these up by hand. These are very much like they want to stick together and be worked. Right now I don't want them sticking together. I want them separated. Ooh, there's a rock. That was in one of them. So I'm really starting to get down to the small pieces. That's all clay on my hand. So eventually that'll all get separated out. From the soil and the water. I love that the idea that I can just go out into my yard and do this. It's like making mud pies when I was a kid. My cousin and I got in a lot of trouble making mud pies. We made some messes on the porch. Look at all that clay. Like, that's a lot of clay. It is beautiful here in the fall. I absolutely love it here. The trees have all turned. Most of the leaves have fallen. Like I was saying earlier, this is a very unseasonable day. It is not normally this bright and sunny and warm. It's 68 degrees. We've already had snow. Not anything that stayed on the ground or anything, but we had some. So yeah, I'm just going to keep working these with my fingers, breaking them up. This is getting all over my face. It splashes up. I don't know if you can see the splatters on my arms. There's not a lot of larger pieces left. It's like as I'm stirring it with the stick, the pieces that I'm leaving that are like this are basically just, they're rolling up in a ball. Like this. That's a lot of clay. Not where I'm at, no. I'm right in the middle of the state, so we don't really have to worry about the lake effect here. I'm just going to kind of mush this with my hands in the water. Talk about some exfoliation on the hands, though. I can feel the grit from the sand and soil that's kind of separated. See those like bits of clay that have splashed up, like look at that. There's so much clay in this. It's pretty exciting. The ceramic that my grandmother did, she used molds. So she would buy slip. It was like this. It was clay suspended in water. And I can feel that really soft velvety texture starting to form between my fingers. You can tell it's not just water. There's definitely clay. The suspension is very thick. There's a lot of clay in this little bit of water I've got in here. But she would basically take clay suspended in water like this, which is called slip, SLIP, and pour it into a mold. And as the water started to evaporate and the clay in the slip clung to the sides of the mold, it would thicken. And then she'd pour the slip that was left out of the middle and allow that to dry, and then it would be removed from the mold and cleaned, like the seams and things. That's not the type of thing that I'm going to be doing, although it's possible that I might be able to. I don't have any molds or anything or any access to them, so I'm starting to get little rocks and things. Now I understand there's another pottery channel on Twitch. She actually throws clay. I think that's what it's called, throwing clay. She uses a pottery wheel. Her Twitch name is Play in the Mud, and it makes perfect sense now. Because I feel like I'm playing in the mud. And I'm not mad at it. But yeah, the clay itself has a very silky, velvety feel. Yeah, this method is going to have, exactly, she has a great name. There will be sand particles and things in it, and actually once I get everything processed, get the clay separated from the soil, I'll actually be adding sand back to it. That's just to add structure, give some integrity to the clay, otherwise it'll be less, I don't remember what they called it. It'll have, when you fire it, it'll be more likely to break. So, yeah. So I'll be adding sand, but just pure sand, just silicone to it. Or once I have a few pots that have broken because I've made mistakes, which will happen, I can actually grind up the broken pottery and add that back into my clay to add integrity to it. I'm starting to get some really like, this is just beautiful. Like the color and how silky it looks. I was not expecting this. And I'm looking over at the other bucket, and I'll show you in a minute. I can clearly see probably about a ½ inch of water separated from the clay. And it's really cool. I'm just going to keep working this. And I could have to add, maybe I have to add more water because it could just be super saturated. Which just means that there's so much clay suspended in the water that it doesn't want to continue holding it. If that makes sense. Yeah, I've almost got, I think this is about all that's left that hasn't split up or anything. Let's see, I can kind of form that into a ball and look, it's like the ashtrays I made when I was 5. I'm just working this between my fingers. So most of the things that people will see from this is on my YouTube channel. I probably won't stream a lot of it because most of it is going to happen back on the back of the property and the Wi-Fi doesn't reach that far. So yeah. See how that's clinging, the dark, that's clay. It's beautiful. Yeah, so most of that's you'll be able to see most of this on YouTube. And I don't know if my bot's on, but you might be able to type !social in chat. I think my bot is running on my computer in the house. But you might be able to type !social in chat and get a link to my YouTube channel. We got a lot of separation here, which is great. Like as far as the clay separated from the soil. It's getting really soft. So I'm going to rinse my hands off so that I can touch the iPad. And then I'll show you that separation going on in the other bucket because that is so stinking cool. Okay. So you should be able to see on the side over here, over there, with this camera oriented this way, like there's clearly about a half an inch of water that is separated from the clay. So that's how I will get the clay out of the water. I'll just let it sit until it separates completely. Now I still have to like swish this back and forth between a couple of buckets a couple of times to get the rest of the sediment out, because I'm pretty sure if I reach down in here, oh yeah, I've got soil in the bottom. That's so pretty. But yeah, this will get mixed up. Give it about 20 minutes to let the soil separate out of it. 10 to 20 minutes. Look at that. You can see the little bits of soil on my hand. The little specks. I'm going to rinse my hand again. Nope, other way. But yeah, I'm going to stir that for a few more minutes. And then I think that's going to be it. Nope, that's not where I had you. I had you over here. Didn't I? So you could see the bucket. Or at least sort of see the bucket. Yeah, that's... I've got clay all over me. You can see the little spots on my clothes. Time to do laundry. So I don't think I can do much more with this right now until it sits and I can, or until I get more buckets, really. I have the 2 buckets currently. I probably used too much water the first time, so when I drained that off, there's a lot of water in it. I may let that separate and drain the water off and then just go back to the 2 bucket method. I don't know. It may not even get done this season. It may sit in the garage and freeze and not get done until the spring. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to call it here, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and seeing me play in the dirt for a bit. Let's see if I can tilt this up so you can see. Quite a bit of clay in there. Awesome. Thank you for hanging out. But anyways, have a great day, guys. Wow. Have a great day, guys. And I will see you next time. Bye. How do I stop this thing?